Wings spread, radiating light, hovering above the human world below. That exact figure, carved in stone, pressed into clay, painted onto rock, appears on every inhabited continent, left by civilizations that never once shared a coastline or a trade route. What were they all looking at? Start with Egypt, because Egypt is where the image becomes impossible to dismiss. The winged sun disk appears above the entrance to every major temple in ancient Egypt, every throne room, every royal decree of any consequence. The earliest confirmed example dates to around 2500 BCE. That's Old Kingdom Egypt, centuries before the New Kingdom that most people picture when they think of pharaohs. This wasn't decoration. Scholars who've spent careers on Egyptian iconography are consistent on this point. The winged disk was a sovereignty marker. It meant divine authority was present and watching from above. You didn't place it above a doorway because it looked impressive. You placed it there because what passed beneath it was being sanctioned by something in the sky. Now move northeast into Mesopotamia and Assyria. The Anzu bird, a massive winged divine creature associated with storms and cosmic authority, appears in cuneiform texts that run parallel to Egypt's dynastic period, not downstream from it. The Assyrian Lamassu, those enormous carved figures with wings spread and bodies oriented upward, were placed at the thresholds of palaces and temples. Same posture, same upward orientation, same function. Guardian of the boundary between the human world and something above it. The Assyrian tradition and the Egyptian tradition weren't copying each other in any documented way. They were arriving at the same architectural decision independently, that the figure with wings, facing skyward, belonged at the entrance to wherever power lived. That's already two civilizations, separated by geography and political history, converging on the same image for the same structural purpose. But it gets more specific. Move east into the Vedic tradition. The Rig Veda, composed somewhere between 1500 and 1200 BCE, describes Garuda, a great solar eagle associated with cosmic order. He carries sacred energy across the sky. He is explicitly solar, explicitly associated with dominion over the boundary between earth and the heavens. And his role isn't mythological decoration. He is the mechanism by which the gods exercise power over the world below. The specific attributes are almost a checklist: wings, sky dominion, solar association, the figure as the physical form of cosmic authority. When you lay Garuda's iconographic profile next to the Egyptian winged disk, the overlap isn't poetic, it's structural. Now, cross the ocean entirely, because that's where the hemisphere argument starts to crack. The feathered serpent figure that eventually becomes Quetzalcoatl in Aztec tradition is far older than the Aztec absorption of it. Researchers tracing the iconographic lineage put its earliest forms more than 1,000 years before the Aztec Empire consolidated that imagery. Wings, sky association. The figure as bringer of civilization knowledge. Specifically, the kind of knowledge that separates ordered society from chaos. The Mesoamerican version carries one attribute the Old World versions share almost word for word. This figure doesn't just live in the sky. It descends from the sky to give humans something they couldn't have figured out on their own. 4 civilizations, no shared coastline, no plausible direct contact corridor that holds up under scrutiny. And the figure in each case isn't just winged, it's winged and authoritative, winged and solar, winged and positioned at the threshold between human order and whatever lies above it. Here's the question I keep coming back to, and I'd genuinely like to know your answer in the comments. Which of these 4 feels hardest to explain away? Egypt and Assyria at least share a geographic neighborhood, but Vedic India and Mesoamerica, that's not a trade route. That's 2 separate hemispheres arriving at the same image independently, and the hemisphere argument is about to stop working altogether. Of those 4, Egypt, Assyria, Vedic India, Mesoamerica, which one do you think is hardest to explain away as coincidence? Drop your answer in the comments below, because what comes next makes the hemisphere problem significantly worse. The Thunderbird appears across the Pacific Northwest, the Great Plains and the Great Lakes, not as a single tribal tradition, but as a figure that dozens of unconnected nations independently arrived at. That's the part that matters. Archaeological evidence puts Thunderbird imagery back at least 4,000 years, carved into petroglyphs and pictographs across regions with no shared political structure and no unified religious authority. These weren't neighbors comparing notes. They were separate peoples, sometimes rivals, sometimes strangers to each other entirely, and they all kept cutting the same figure into stone. The figure is typically depicted as a bird of prey or an avian-human hybrid, a person with a beak and wings, sometimes shown chest forward with tail feathers parted like human legs. Sit with that for a second. Not a bird, not a human. Something positioned exactly at the threshold between the two. It acts as a mediator between the upper world and humanity, possessing extraordinary spiritual energy that commands deep respect. That's the same structural role the Egyptian winged disc plays, the same role Garuda plays in the Vedic tradition, the same role the feathered serpent plays in Mesoamerica, sky dominion, the boundary between order and chaos, the figure that descends when the rules of the world are being set. Now go further. Go to the most remote inhabited place on Earth. Easter Island sits roughly 2,300 miles from the nearest continental coastline. The people who built its culture arrived there and stayed there, genuinely isolated in a way that makes any contact corridor argument collapse. And what did they build their ritual life around? The Tangata Manu, the Birdman cult at the ceremonial site of Orongo, a winged human figure. Specifically, a figure that governed access to divine knowledge. The winning competitor in the annual Birdman rite became the earthly vessel of the creator god Make for an entire year. The Birdman wasn't decorative. He was the mechanism by which the sky's authority transferred to the human world below. Same structure, different ocean, no plausible shared origin. I want to name the obvious explanation here and deal with it honestly. The ancient astronaut theory that a non-human intelligence visited multiple civilizations and left the same image behind gets one sentence of fair hearing. The convergence is striking enough that the question isn't crazy. It is, however, not supported by the archaeological record in any direct way, and I'm not going to pretend it deserves the same weight as the physical evidence we actually have. The diffusion explanation, ideas traveling trade routes, gets slightly more respect, and I've given it a fair hearing across the old world cases. But it fails on ocean geography, and it fails on timing. Easter Island's isolation isn't a technicality, it's a hard wall, so here's the controlled position I keep arriving at. And I want to be precise about it. The claim is not that these civilizations shared a source. The claim is that they all independently decided the sky contains something that looked like this, winged, radiant, positioned at the boundary between human order and whatever lies above it, and that it held authority over that boundary. That's the thing that needs explaining, not the mythology, the convergence. Göbekli Tepe's first stone circles went up about 11,500 years ago, 6,000 years before Stonehenge, and more than 7,000 before the first Egyptian pyramid. The people who built it had no writing and no cities. Work published in recent years reads the carvings on its pillars as a calendar. And the vulture stone in its main enclosure shows a great vulture with what may be a solar disk balanced on its wing. A great vulture spreads across the top, and the vulture was the bird ancient people watched strip a corpse and believed carried the dead up into the sky. A winged figure, positioned between the human world and whatever lies above it, carved by people who apparently felt strongly enough about this particular shape to spend decades cutting it into stone, before any of the civilizations I've described had even begun. I still don't know what they were all looking at, but I noticed they were all looking at the same place. Subscribe if that convergence unsettles you, the way it unsettles me. Check my channel for more great content.